Welcome. This is the Hubba's one of Hubba's webinars on writing descriptions for business to business, and we're going to talk about why it is important to have business to business descriptions and when to use those and why that's a different skill than what you would write for consumers. So we're going to go through this. The session will take, if you're just joining us, the session will take somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, and then I'll take questions. We typically book an hour, but we try and get you out in about 40-45 minutes, so that so that we can get you guys in and out, and you can get back to selling things and all that stuff. In terms of transcripts and copies and all that stuff, there will be a copy of this. You'll see it on the Hubba blog in probably about a week or so. There'll be a blog description as well as a link to the video. So you'll be able to see the whole thing via video whenever you want to on our blog site. Okay, so let's get going. Just real quick, this is me. I think a bunch of you guys have been on with me before. I'm Retail Phil. I won't go through everything, but I am Hubba's retail expert, and I've been around a while and done a whole bunch of things, from being a sales guy to a trade marketer to global franchise, and finally been a buyer with Target as well. So I do a lot of speaking at events. I've just come back, and I think I saw some of you at Outdoor Retailer. We're going to Global Pet. We're all over the place in terms of where we go. We are industry experts and try to be in those places to be as references for you guys. And this is brought to you by Hubba U. If you want the chance to be able to find out more lessons, you can click on Hubba U and find out more about how you can get there. But today's lesson is about B2B descriptions. So I'm going to cover some really common mistakes that brands make along the way. And they're not mistakes that are they're not always obvious, because a lot of brands start from scratch, and you start in local markets and you move into, you start with friends and family, you build into local markets, and then finally you get to, a regional market, and then you get to, kind of national markets is where everyone wants to go. And so it's a trap you fall into more than a mistake. Brands that start like that always start with the consumer, because the consumer is the one who buys the product ultimately. But in the beginning, you have the closest contact with consumers, and so brands learn how to make really great consumer messages right away. And they know how to make it resonate with the consumer, because they're always talking to consumers. When you're in a local market, you're talking to consumers. You know what makes them tick. You know what makes them endear themselves to you. And so you spend a lot of time curating for it. So that is something that you do, but it's a trap later on when you get to retailers. In the hierarchy you can see on the right side here, what's most important to a consumer, particularly nowadays in the world where boutique and customization is a big thing. Your brand unique features, your product unique features are things that really endear a consumer to you, or are the things that are most. So at the top is most important, what's unique about your brand, then product unique, so what's unique about the product, and then underneath that might be how unique the company is, and then finally company history. So that's the way a consumer sees you. That's the way when you're in a local market you would wind up structuring your pitch to a consumer that might come to your booth or whatever and buy the product. Okay, so that's kind of the normal evolution of things, and I'll actually give you some examples after this so you can see those as well. But that's kind of how that lays out. Okay, and I'll show you how it's different in a little bit too. The second thing is that brands, when you spend all this time speaking to consumers at local markets, or you spend a lot of consumer research time. When you get to a retailer, usually the first kind of rude awakening is that you get a buyer call and you spend a lot of time preparing for this, but you see that the consumer actually, or the retailer, sorry, doesn't seem to be very excited about your product, right? So you've kind of built a really great presentation, you've got a great deck with all this information in it, and the buyer seems disengaged, or the buyer seems to be very neutral. And it isn't that they don't care or they don't love the product. It's and don't be insulted by that, right? Like a retailer is, they're you almost need to think of them like an operator. You want to think of them like a you want to think of them like you and your business, and when people are pitching you, right? So they see hundreds and thousands of products every day. As soon as you start talking, they're vetting for operational things. They're vetting for things that that matter to them, right? So they're merchants first. So they're thinking about operations. So operations are things like, how quickly will your product sell? Can I put it on a shelf? Will it sit on a shelf? Will it hang on a peg? Will it fall down? If it falls down and breaks, is that my problem? How will my stores clean that up? Who's going to complain? And then they're thinking about profit and volume and those things. And will you make them lots of money? And so a retailer, as you start talking about your product, that's what a retailer is thinking about. The retailer is like, their hierarchy of needs on the side here are things they're looking at you like, how reliable are you? So, have you shipped anywhere before? Do you have a history for it? Who are you? Do you feel like you're someone that I can do business with? And if you run out of stock, or or I need more stock, can I call you and you're going to be able to ship me product? And that leads to things like, do you have a track record? So do you sell somewhere else? Every retailer says they want to be first, but every retailer wants to know that you have a track record. So they want to know that you've got that ability to deliver, and they want to know where they can reference that, right? So, and then the next thing is, do you have good numbers? Do you have a volume per store or a volume per day that you can tell them? Or even things like, if you sell on Amazon, are you Amazon fulfilled? So does Amazon want to buy from you and resell it? Or if you're shipping, through Amazon and you're fulfilling yourself, how many units a week do you sell? So those are all things that are a retailer is thinking about first and foremost before they ever get to, wow, this is a really cool product. That doesn't mean that they're inhuman, because at some point, all retailers are still people that love products, but all of these things, are overriding concerns. I can tell you that, when I was at Target and I had people calling me, the first thing I'd be thinking about, because as a buyer, you get a lot of emails. So I got a good day meaning the least amount of emails I got was probably about 300 emails a day. And so, I'm thinking about, I'm thinking about how many emails am I going to get from stores saying they don't like the product, they don't like the way it's placed, they don't like where I put it, it doesn't hang on a peg, all those sorts of things. Okay, so that's what you're thinking about. That's what they're thinking about before they ever get to, oh, you know what, this is super cool and I like this product. Okay. So the last thing is, there are moments when you should be a fan of your product, and there are moments where you should be taking your hat off. So, and again, I'll get to the next slides are some examples that I'll show you around how you kind of put the two together. So you should absolutely be a fan for the consumer descriptions. So that's the packaging descriptions and the consumer-facing stuff that you're putting out that gets to a shopper or a consumer directly. And so you should definitely be a fan, because the things that you love are the things that someone picking up the product and buying it direct are going to love. The parts that you shouldn't be a fan for, the ones that you should actually put on your own owner-operator brand owner hat on for, is the B2B descriptions. Because anytime that someone comes to you and says, hey, I'd like you to pay for something because it's a service that I can give you, you've got a set number of criteria that you're going through, and those are the same ones that a buyer goes through, right? So, for businesses that want to buy and resell your product, you want something that will reassure a buyer that I'm professional, I have history, I have a track record, and I can get you profit, volume, sales, that you need. Okay, and then the last one that we call out that typically sometimes will be a consolidation of your consumer description is a social media description. Think about things like Twitter. You have 140 characters, so you're going to want to be concise and yet have a call to action for social media folks. Or you know, you're going to want to drive them to go to a channel. You know, if you're Instagram, you're going to want something that's endearing and lovely, right? So you really should have kind of three sets of descriptions for all of your product that you want. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples. Bardolph Shoes is one that I've used. You'll see how I've broken this out. So this is their product description right down the middle. And so what I've done is this is the way they've structured it for a B2B. And so you'll see right off the bat that they come in with you know, almost their pedigree or their history. So since 1928, this is what they do. They focus on shoes for kids, highest quality footwear. So right away, you know, okay, company's got history. You know, they're reliable. They've been around a long time. You can infer out of that that they've got good numbers. And then they roll into, you know what, we represent Ski Hoshi. Again, they work through the same formula of here's how long we've been around. Here's our pedigree. We're carrying the largest shoe manufacturer and distributor of footwear. And then we actually have, you know, expertise in this category because of the orthopedic nature. And then this is what we sell: shoes, children's shoes, you know, that protect feet and the benefits behind it. Okay, so you can see that right away the description is designed for a buyer because that answers all the buyer's questions of, gosh, this is a new vendor. They seem reliable. Are they really reliable? Could I count on them? Will they be able to do what I want them to do? And this hits that right away to be able to say, yes, we have a history. We've been around. You can check us out. We have a track record for being able to do what you need. Then they get into things that once they've cleared that with the buyer, now they get into the consumer portion, right? Because these are the things that matter to the retailer's consumers, right? And so that's things like, you know, brand unique features, right? So it's machine washable, antibacterial, ultra light, and then product unique features designed to support and promote foot development. And then you can see that you know, they kind of get into a little bit more, you know, marketing stuff around fashion forward styling, which is company uniqueness, and then you know, kind of call out truly unique brand in children's athletics. So really great way to structure this, because it does, anytime that a buyer has a chance to look at this, they are clearing this description quickly, and it does give them enough to go, you know what, I think I want to talk to these guys. They've been around a long time, and they've got pedigree, and I think I could work with them. Okay, so that clears what you want, and that helps you set the table for being able to get a good conversation away about what you can deliver for them. Okay. The other one that I'm going to cover is one. So I chose two that are different in the sense that one, you know, the one that I just showed you, they've been around, you know, like 100 years, you know, or almost 100 years. So that's kind of cool, you know. But at 100 years, you kind of have a really neat story to tell. What happens if you've been around a couple of years and you don't have the same story to tell? And then, you know, what kind of tools do you have at your disposal that you are able to leverage? And so Bobax is one that's neat. They are the world's best traveling jacket that they claim, and they've only been around since 2015. And so how does you know, a brand that's had such a short tenure been around go about proving, you know, to a retailer that they have the history or the pedigree that it requires to be in business? So they've used some different things here, and that's why I chose these guys. You know, how reliable are you? So they don't have a ton to say around reliability, so they give some context around why they're here. They address the fact that they've been around since 2015. So a buyer might say in this case, well, you're awfully new. Maybe, you know, it's kind of that I'd like to hire you You know, if you had experience, but you can't get hired unless you have experience. You know, so some of that matters here. But here, what they've done is they've leveraged some things that they do have that have some data in it that allows a buyer to be able to make a credible decision. So they tackle that right away. They say, you know, we're founded in 2015. We do have a lot of attention because we did do a funding campaign. We did crowdfunding. It's not, I will say that in this case, the reason I picked this that's really cool is because they didn't spend any time justifying why they went to crowdfunding. Okay, so because you can get into, sometimes when you're writing these things, you can get distracted by what's legit, what's not legitimate, what the world sees as right and what's not. Here they've simply stated it. You know, we did it via crowdfunding, but our you know, our most successful campaign had $1 million in backing, and that gives a buyer something to work on. Right? Is the buyer says, "I got it. There's a trend here, and there is a market for it," because they are looking for that. They're looking for, is there demand? And so they've leveraged the only thing they have, not the only thing, but a data point that they can use to be able to get a buyer to sit up and pay attention. Is here's what I can promise you is that we've been around in 2015. We were able to raise $1 million in that short time frame, and we have a consumer demand for us. Okay, so that helps to settle some of that B2B you know, kind of information that you might need. And then the second part is, you know, the easier part about brand features. I won't go through this because there seems to be, their jackets are kind of crazy good, not crazy bad, but they have a lot of stuff in them, which I can't keep up with. Neck pillow, eye mask, like it's kind of like this Swiss Army knife for jackets. But you can see that they kind of go to town on the description of how it's consumer friendly. I just thought it would be neat to give you 2 examples of how, you know, an established brand goes through this, and then also how a new brand goes through this. Okay, so that is, I promised you that I would get you out fairly quickly. This is kind of the wrap up. So that's where that's how you do B2B descriptions. I moved through that fairly quickly. And again, this will be on the, we'll do a post and a blog right up on this with a recording of this video that you'll be able to watch again if you want to in about a week or so. But I wanted to go through that because we see here at Hubba we have 40,000 brands on the site, and we do see a lot of brands that come in looking for buyers to connect with, but that have B2C descriptions. So they're very much in the consumer marketing space. And so we're always looking to help these guys rewrite brand descriptions that a buyer will be able to pick up and look at and figure out how to, you know, decide whether they want to contact them and work with them. So what I thought I'd do is just open it up for some questions. We kind of, you know, we've got some time here, so I can answer as many questions as you like, and then and we can go from there. So I'll just, if you guys want to pop in and just write questions, I can definitely take them. Do I think that having a big distributor makes a difference? Sometimes having a distributor makes a difference, and I know, you know, for a lot of small mediums, there's kind of there's almost 2 decision factors here. One is obviously cost, right? So what's the ROI in having a distributor who's going to take a cut of your sales, you know, as opposed to getting you represented. What I would say is, you know, obviously ROI is something you guys are always looking at. Distributors, if you're picking someone, you need someone who can show you that they have good connections with retailers that you're after. And the way they do that will be, one, to show you the portfolio of products. If you're picking a distributor, pick someone who has a portfolio that's similar to your own and appeals to the buyer that you're after. Otherwise, it's not going to help you in that process. That's almost like a whole nother lesson, but you know, Jane, if no, it's not Jane, it's Mamta, if you want to talk about that some more, maybe shoot me a note and we can chat about that some more. Jane, we have a lot of retailers on Hubba, and we have a lot of influencers on Hubba. What I would say almost is you calibrate for volume, because the influencers will be able to read your consumer trends and kind of figure out where you fit in the world. If they're good influencers, they'll know that. So the B2B description is the one that gets you volume and gets you distribution. Gets you distribution leads out of Hubba. So that's what I would calibrate for. And Scott, that's the very same answer for you. As I would calibrate Hubba descriptions for B2B, because what you're after is the buyer conversations, whether it be mom and pop, the medium size, or the large guys. That's where you're going to be able to get. That's where you're going to be able to get the most ROI out of it. And again, the good influencers. We're teaching influencers every day. We get more and more influencers signing up, but we teach them how to interface with you guys. And we're teaching them to be able to come to you with all the same things of, what can I do for you? How can I help you with your audience? And so B2B descriptions will help them as well. Hey Marilyn, you joined us. That's awesome. You said you were going to make it, but that's amazing that you can make it. If you have a combo B2B, B2C website, so if you've got a combo B2B, B2C site, you almost need to break it up. So you do need to break up like your About Me probably needs to be like a 2-tiered site. So it depends on, it might depend on what kind of traffic flow you get, whether you get a 50-50 flow of consumers and B2B, or consumers and retailers. If you can tell that from some of your data, you'll be able to see that. But I would say that for sure your About Me has to be B2B heavy, because a B2C will also see reliability and all those things, and then they'll skip to the more endearing parts of your brand trademark or who you are. So I would definitely lean to B2B, especially on the About Me portions. Okay, so for businesses looking to sell through us, busiest time of year. So we have. So I'll answer that, and I'll answer the question about us and where we're focused from Nadia at the same time. So Hubba is a global organization. We're based in Toronto, so we're Canadian in nationality, but we are probably about 60% of our brand and retailer base is based in the US, and then 40% is worldwide. So we started here in Canada, but because of our kind of retail roots, we're all over the place. We probably have a very small Canadian base now. We probably have maybe 10% Canadian base, and then the rest is worldwide. The Asia Pac group, Asia Pacific rim is growing really quickly, and then we're spread out all over Europe as well. And so in terms of seasonality, we're all over the place, right? Because it really depends on the cohorts you're in too. So if you're in things like health and wellness, you probably get 2 really big times in the year when retailers are updating planograms and that sort of thing for seasonality. If you're sports, you get at least 2, 4 big spikes out of the year for spring, summer, and then winter. Are 3, and then we call what we call get in shape season, which would be right now after New Year's. And then, a lot of commodity businesses, Black Friday and American Thanksgiving and Christmas, or, seasonal holidays is definitely a big thing as well. So we're kind of all over the place. We see what's more important, I would say, is if you're calibrating for buyers, you want to tune to probably 2 questions that will help you along the way. One is, how big of a retailer are you looking at? Are they a big retailer? If they're a big retailer, what you want is you want to get to these guys 6 months before your season is in. So It's January right now. A big retailer is looking at July. In February, they'll be planning back to school. February, March, they'll be planning back to school. And so, and if you're a medium-sized retailer, you're looking at 3 months out. So you're looking at, kind of right now they're planning, for North America, it would be get outside season, get active season, come out of winter and get into hiking and climbing gear and that kind of thing. So I would say that you want to calibrate for your buyer and your buyer categories, and then learn when they're pre-planning, because that's one that'll tell a buyer that you know the category. That'll show them that you're tuned to the category and you know when they're planning. That gets you on a buyer's good side awfully fast. Okay, and then let me see here. Sorry, I'm going to go back up here. I think I've missed some questions. Okay, yeah, so for a product that has a longer turnaround time, important to stay in contact with the retailer during the 6 to week 8 manufacturing time. I think so. It's always important to stay in contact with the retailer. One of the first things that you should be doing when I'm going to read into this question that you've got a commitment or a PO from the buyer, and that you're producing to get on shelf. So David, if I'm off here, send me a note and we can calibrate, or I can help you with that question. During that, the one thing that you should be doing is always check to see what works from a natural sequence of communication with a buyer. So buyers, again, think of like a buyer on the buyer side, they're juggling stores, they're juggling a lot of brands. They're juggling a lot of brands. They're juggling a lot of deadlines. If you think 8 weeks from now I'm shipping the product for a buyer, right now the buyer's thinking about back to school. They're thinking about all those things. So what you want to do when you've got the buyer's attention is say, what's appropriate? When do you want me to check in with you? I've got this PO from you. Do you appreciate, halfway through this that I'm pinging you and telling you that I'm on track, or those sort of things? You wanna just check in on what's a natural timeline, so that you can kind of work through then and not get on a buyer's bad side, but also satisfy that you're not anxious of that you haven't heard anything from these guys. So that makes a difference as well. Okay. Let me see here. I answered. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little. I apologize. I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here. I love this. The dialogue is really great. Is there a difference between B2B script for e-commerce retailers, between e-commerce and retailers? I think if you're writing, e-commerce retailers are going to want to know the same things. E-commerce retailers, and the probably the biggest difference between an e-com retailer and a bricks and mortar retailer is one wants to know, it'll be the logistics details. So it'll be things like, like an e-commerce retailer, probably the first question they're going to ask you is, do you drop ship? How reliable are you at drop shipping? Is there someone that I can talk to you about that? And a bricks and mortar will be, how experienced are you to be shipping to different distribution sites and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you calibrate that portion of what you're writing, you'll be fine, but generally they're looking for the same sort of things. Let me see here. So a site for distributor and salespeople. You can find distributors in Hubba as well. Alicia, if you're on Hubba, have a look around. If you can't, shoot me a note and I'll help you kind of zero in on who you can look for, or who's in your space that we've got on Hubba. I apologize. I am jumping around a little bit, but I'm making my way through these. Okay. Okay, so I'm on Julie. our company's social purpose, handcrafted in Canada. Julie, I know you, Julie. Let's see here. Unique. Okay. So this one. So I don't. So one of the neatest things about the new age of retail is retailers are very committed to social purpose as well. They are. So I was at Outdoor Retailer. I don't know if any of you. I think some of you folks were there from what I can see on the list. And Patagonia, who's a leader in terms of sustainability in that athletic space and is very passionate about it, led a discussion between Patagonia and Arctic Fleece and a whole bunch of people that make kind of microfiber products. And included in that conversation was REI, a retailer, a sports outdoor retailer, and MEC from Canada, Mountain Equipment Co-op, and it was a very scientific discussion about sustainability and what's important and what's not important and how do they play a role in that. I think, Julie, in the kind of big box space, they're slowly coming around to social purpose. I think that small, medium businesses are very tuned to that. I would say that it's lower in the level. You still want to be able to deliver that you have a very solid reputation for dealing with retailers, but in there you should be working in social purpose because one of the top searches in Hubba right now is eco-friendly and environmentally friendly products, and and that's retailers searching for that stuff. So I think that's important for you to combine in there. You should be keeping that in your kind of B2B description. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, I'm working my way through these, so bear with me. Okay, so a new product that doesn't have a track record for good volume. So I would ask a couple of things. So one is you always have data points. You probably don't know. You're as a small or as someone who's starting out, you're processing a lot of data. So sometimes you have data and you don't know you have it. If you're selling at a local market, you have data, right? Because you know how many you sold in a day. That allows you to be able to process that information into how many units did I sell in a day. That gives you the ability to forecast something that works. You can also, what you can also do in that case is, if you sell on, for instance, if you sell on Amazon, you already have data. I actually was coaching somebody through this, someone who has who sells on Amazon, had sold and was fulfilling their own product, and then Amazon noticed them and then began to buy from them. So they became Amazon fulfilled, which means that they are they're basically a vendor for Amazon, the Amazon store, and they have 1,000 reviews on Amazon. And so that becomes data points because now you pull on the strings that a retailer wants. So a retailer wants to know that you can sell. They want to know that there's a demand for you. So that's the 1,000 reviews, right? So 1,000 reviews on Amazon is nothing to shrug at, and that tells a retailer that, hey, you know what? There's a consumer demand for this product, and Amazon fulfilled you, which means that you are a good seller that they buy from. And so if you're even not there and you're in a local market, you can still say, you know what? When I go and I sell in a local market, here's how many I sell in a day. Here's how many, or I benchmarked it and I was in the local market today, and then after today, my social media following went up by X number of followers. So all of that stuff turns into things that you can turn into something that are metrics that you can handle. Let's see what else is there. David, yeah, it's tough if you're almost done. That's a difficult one. Let me think about that. Maybe shoot me a note. You can anyone that needs to shoot me a note, you can send me a note at pchang@hubba.com. So that's pchang@hubba.com, or you can tweet me at retailphil, and I'll answer or I'll follow up on any of these questions that you have. David, there might be some social media stuff that you can do. Maybe if there's footage that you can provide, like here's a really cool one. If you did a time lapse of your furniture getting built, that you could send them, it might appeal to them to go, oh, cool, that's on its way. I should be keeping an eye out for that. But I wouldn't overuse that for sure. If you're in big box retail, want to approach drug. You know what, Scott? I think that no, sorry, it's Brad. Brad, if you're in big box retail, the biggest thing that overcomes concerns will be playing to the profit number and the volume number that a buyer needs to meet. You know, like a buyer is like a they're just like they're kind of like a pincushion for things that they got to do. So they seem like they got a lot of power, but they got to answer for a lot of stuff. So they got to juggle 300 emails. They got to talk to all these people, but they still got to deliver volume and metrics. And so as long as you can appeal to their profit and loss column and their volume metrics, the next thing would be about how you can help to manage retail price so that they're not competing with big box. So that you can show them how to live with big box. That allows them to be able to say, I can list this guy, I can put their products on shelf, I can make lots of money at it, and I'm not going to get dragged into a price war where I'm going to have to discount and stay ahead of big box. That'll be where the concerns are. I have lots of experience with this, so Brad, if you want to shoot me a note, I can help you with that as well. Yeah, kind of had to do, you do a lot of retail coaching there because you want them to stay out of, it's also to your disadvantage when you know, big channels start competing with each other because your margins go down and your emails go up and the screaming goes up. So okay, so Scott, let's see what you got here. New brands. Yeah, that's definitely a great part of that answer as well. Aaron, all dialed in. Working on. Yeah, we can help with that. So transparently, there's a couple of things we do. So Hubba, this might be a good place to answer that as well. So Hubba kind of has two things we can do. One is an absolute free portion. We will help you get your products loaded up and all that kind of stuff, and then you can go out and reach retailers. The other portion that we do have is something called an Accelerate or Professional program. And if you've clicked enough buttons in Hubba, you've probably seen that. There's a paid portion of what we do, and there are folks that are very skilled at writing brand messages that can help you with some of that as well. You know, that you can do as well, Aaron. So you can click on that and find out. It's exciting to have you on Hubba, so we love it. I'm not familiar with your product, but I'm gonna go check it out after this. But also a guy like me kind of roams around Hubba helping folks get stuff done as well. So ping me as well, and I can do my best to guide you along the way as well. Sequoia. Yeah, so this is for you, and this is for pretty much everyone else on Hubba. The one thing that we've noticed, and we're working on this as well, is as you get followers and you get people who like your product, we are different. We are different from like a social media platform where you're collecting things or collecting people. What you want to do is anyone that follows you or anyone that likes your product, you should be messaging because they are a lead of some sort, and so they would be people that that you're going to want to talk to, right? And so you know, if you get a follower and you check them out and you look at them and they're a retailer, I would ping them, you know, because that becomes your leads in Hubba. So we do see people. That's something new. That's new. We've been encouraging people to do that. when people follow you, figure out who they are, because they could be a lead list. If they've looked at your product, it means they show some interest. So maybe you can either partner with them as an influencer, or there's something you can do with them, as a retailer. So that's definitely something you should do. There's actually a Hubba best practice video on that, converting followers into leads. So have a look at that, so that you can chase down some of those leads and connect with people. Heidi, did you actually just introduce yourself? We love Heidi. And I've met Heidi before. Thank you. I love that you're here, and you're moving into organic. Yeah, so Heidi, you've got a lot to do. I think so. Yeah, you know what? Your B2B, you almost need to dial it up one. So your top line B2B, Heidi, should be about track record still, and it can be. But at the end of your B2B, I would definitely get into. You probably need to find a way to segment out so that because they're almost totally different segments, right? Someone who wants your specialty supplements isn't someone that may want your synthetic natural mixes, and someone that you're gonna want to do a B2B that's almost track record, and then into here are the 3 segments. Which one are you into that I can help you with or talk to you about, so that you kind of get so you can get triaged. You can get these guys triaged properly. Let's see here. What else do I have? Yeah, so email address is pchang@hubba.com. So that's let me type this in here. pchang@hubba.com. That's me. Okay, so you can definitely reach me. I think I'm a little bit behind you guys, so thank you for putting that in, Aaron. Talking about Amazon data, a concern for retailers. No, because Amazon is a real thing, right? So retailers are learning to deal with them. Retailers are, anytime that you bump up against a retailer who's worried about another channel, what they're not worried about is they're not worried about selling the same product, because a lot of people sell the same product. What they're worried about is competing on a price point level. They want to know that if you've got a suggested retail price with them of $9.99, that they're not going to go on to Amazon on any given day and see they're being undercut by $2. And so you need, this is almost like advanced account management, but you need to get into channel management where you can say to them, absolutely not, here's where we get to, here's the regular retail price we recommend, and then here's the feature price we recommend. And then what we recommend is whether you have this data or not, you can recommend it, and retailers usually appreciate it, is you can say, we only recommend that you do a $8.99, like $1 off once a quarter, because you're going to get a slight bump, or like a bump in sales, but it's not going to be worthwhile for you to water down your profits to run down to $8.99 every day. And so that is something that retailers want, because they don't want to have to, because they hear about it, right? So as a buyer, my one waking concern when I open a flyer or an ad on the internet every day is that I'm being beat by another retailer, and that makes me cranky, and that makes me want to call a brand and say, what the heck, man, why am I getting outbeat, right? So as long as you can reassure them that that is the case, you should be fine in that case. Amazon is real, it's there and it's here to stay. The faster you can teach a retailer how to coexist, the better it is for you. Okay. Let's see here. Scott, we do have, so there are kind of 2 folks in this space. So right now it's me, but we're splitting out a little bit now, and we're getting there's a really great guy named Cam who's been on the platform and has gone away to do some different things and has come back. He different things in Hubba, but he's actually going to be an influencer. He's going to be teaching influencers how to be better influencers. And then I am your retail guy. I talk to retailers and brands all the time. Between the two of us, we probably make up your mentor program. So Scott, definitely reach out and any of you guys reach out and we'll guide you as best as we can. There are a lot of articles on the blog as well, so go to blog.hubba.com or just go to hubba.com and click on the blog. We do a lot of talking about current issues. We try and track trends because we know you guys are always doing other stuff. So we're always trying to make sure that we we try and keep up with that stuff so that we're there for you and tracking current issues as well. Catherine, yes, for featured price. So you should, anytime that you're doing a price sheet, you should definitely recommend a suggested retail price. Yeah, a MAP policy is really the same thing. You want to be strategic about some of that. So if you're landing with a buyer for the first time and you don't want to talk about trade market funds or you don't want to show your hand too early, you'll want to work that into the conversation after. If you're very comfortable and your MAP policy is kind of out in the open, you should definitely address it because it'll help you see how a buyer feels about that so that you can kind of manage that expectation. Some of that will be account management stuff. You'll want to know where and when you want to couch that conversation so that you're going to be able to manage that the way you want it to go. Sequoia, you can, I would say, okay, so on this one, so Sequoia's asking about how to reach out to more than one person on Hubba. We do have a news feed, so you can go to the news feed section and post in the news feed. I won't lie to you that it's not, it's an underutilized section of what we do. So we do see some success there, but we don't see a lot of people using it. That's probably the best way to reach retailers right now. If you're looking to blast something quite large, get in touch with your community manager and maybe they can figure out how to help you blow that message up a little bit more. We've had some success working with brands and some of that stuff as well. Okay. You know what? Thank you so much. You guys have been really great. As I said before, this is all recorded. We'll have this out in a little bit. We'll have this out in about a week or so. Blog post plus the recording of this video, and I'm extremely excited to be in touch with you guys. If you guys have topics you want to cover in webinars and stuff like that, you can definitely ping me as well. I'm always interested. I am very much about teaching the community and making sure that these drive value. Thank you for your comments. I really love I love the feedback. So anything that you've got, I'm happy to help and happy to do more of these. So thank you so much for joining. I hope you guys all have a great day, and we will talk to you all of you soon. All right, take care, guys. Bye.